Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. It seems there's a big difference of opinion between the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, and the SARS Commissioner, Edward Kieswetter. In fact, that difference of opinion has come into the public domain. We didn't know about it, but it's come into the public domain. And watching some older interviews, I should have known that there was some tension because prior, it seemed that the Minister of Finance would very often say that the SARS commissioner and SARS needs to collect more taxes. And the SARS commissioner would do interviews explaining that they're doing the best that they can. So now we know there's tension. We know that there's a difference of opinion. And we know that the SARS commissioner, Edward Kieswetter, disagrees with the VAT increase. The commissioner gave a speech during a webinar hosted by Alan Gray. And he is of the view that South Africa must not be tempted into thinking that increasing tax rates automatically leads to bigger tax revenues. He said the experience of the 2018 VAT increases bears testimony to this. These are his own words. He believes that tax increases have reached an inflection point, a situation where if you increase the tax more, you're likely to have negative economic consequences. So what he said is the following: we must be very circumspect before increasing taxes. The last big tax hike on taxes was the VAT increase from 14% to 15%. And we know from experience that it did not radically give more revenue because we have reached a point of inflection. Former ministers of finance had actually started trending down, for example, with corporate income taxes, with the intention of doing more to broaden the tax base, to improve compliance, and to reduce opportunities for companies to arbitrage their rates. This is what he said. He went on to say, this does not mean a minister of finance will never look at increasing a tax rate. It is one of the legitimate instruments at their disposal. But he thinks what is clear is that directionally, the biggest benefit for South Africa is a better tax administrator. This view was given to a very high-profile audience and was covered by the leading business paper in South Africa before the budget was announced, before the Democratic Alliance gave any indication that they were not going to back a VAT increase of that amount. And it seems the Minister of Finance was not happy. It led to him reacting with anger. Yesterday, after the budget speech was cancelled, the minister had to do a press briefing to do some damage control. And this is where we found out that he was not happy. We were never supposed to know that the minister is unhappy, but the Minister of Finance and the Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, were talking freely, very comfortably. And they forgot that the media doesn't switch off mics when you stop talking. There's something known as a hot mic. We've seen it in series, we've seen it on TV shows, comedies, etc. Most people get in trouble because of that hot mic. The camera is always running, the mic is always recording. Do you remember R. Kelly when he did that interview with Gayle? And it was the clips that were not even in the main interview which went viral because they were recording him and they released those clips. So the hot mic now let us know what the true feelings are of the Minister of Finance towards the SARS commissioner. This is what was said.
I'm glad you took the question about the commissioner. He answered it much better than I would have.
Oh no, I was a bit. I was worried I should not be angry.
No, you wanted to go. No, but you did well.
Yeah.
No, you did well.
No, he's making me angry.
Yes, no, it's what and
I said, we're discussing, even here, he comes up with this rubbish. I said, how will it help me on the 19th, even now on the 12th?
yes.
He did not know that we've made provision for him for 3.5 in the new arrangement.
Yeah.
But that 3.5 now is gone.
Yes, no, all right. So finally keep. What happened in the end? Yeah, I'll just wait to hear.
They were not intending for South Africa to hear that. They were not intending for the markets to hear that, for investors to hear that. It's quite damning, actually, on them that they forgot about the mics, that they forgot about the fact that the public could still be listening, that the media would exploit this. The relationship between the Minister of Finance and the SARS Commissioner is supposed to be a smooth relationship, but it looks as if there's friction, there's tension. Big question in my mind was, what did they cancel? What did they cancel? And I think the clue comes from what the SARS Commissioner was speaking about, because he's of the view that investment in improving the South African Revenue Service administration, rather than increasing tax rates, is a better option to improve the collection of tax revenue. Right? Instead of hiking taxes, he believes it would be better for the government to invest in SARS to boost its ability to collect tax from those who should be paying tax but didn't or don't. His theoretical modeling, he says, that they've done suggests that this could actually add about 400 billion to about 460 billion per year. Then he also argues that there's a 300 billion which is also due from outstanding tax returns, which need to be followed up upon, along with taxes that are owed, but taxpayers didn't have the means to pay. And then he says the number of tax under collection amounts to between 700 billion to 800 billion. So Kieswetter said that it was essential to modernize SARS to improve its ability to collect these outstanding taxes, to broaden the tax base, and to improve tax compliance. It would appear that this is the 3.5 billion that was allocated and has now been cancelled. I think the SARS Commissioner has a point. And I know that even in 2022, the minister was calling for more revenue collection from SARS. So if he has a point and the minister has articulated, the Minister of Finance, that they need to have better revenue collection, I think cutting off his funding because you're angry from the budget is something, it's something that's akin to cutting the nose to spite the face, as they say. Or if you prefer, it's like eating a spicy biryani to teach your stomach a lesson. You will learn a lesson if you try that. And the lesson is that the stomach is not to be messed with. You don't just eat a spicy biryani unless you are used from birth to eating spicy biryani. If they put the biryani in your milk, spicy, Durban biryani, then you can have it. But if you are trying to teach your stomach a lesson through biryani, you'll cry every day for 3 days. So I don't understand. I don't understand why this would be the response. The SARS Commissioner is giving his professional opinion. Now for you guys to start saying, when is he going, etc., etc., I don't know. It doesn't reflect, the right professional ethos from the ministers. I really think I would be worried about that relationship if I was a policymaker, an investor, a banker, anybody who's involved in the world of finance. I'd be worried. There's something else that I want to talk about around this budget issue. Something weird happened yesterday that's also worth reflecting on. The public started praising the Democratic Alliance for blocking the VAT increase. Many people, including myself, are against a VAT increase, and the DA right now does get the credit for blocking the VAT increase. And remember, it's going from 15% to 17%, or that was the proposal. In terms of percentage increase, the actual percentage increase is 13%. So the rate of change here is not just a 2% increase. No, it's a 2-point increase. But in terms of percentage increase, it's 13.3% increase. So it's a significant increase in terms of in 1 year to increase the VAT rate by that amount. So what's so wrong or what's bad about increasing the VAT? Why is that bad? The value-added tax. Increasing value-added tax has a range of economic, social, and fiscal impacts. Starting with the economic impacts. Number one, you get an inflationary pressure. Higher VAT leads to an increase in the prices of goods and services, contributing to inflation. Businesses will often pass that additional tax to consumers, and this raises the cost of living. already the cost of living is prohibitive. To raise it further would be something that South Africans really would struggle with. As a result of that, you're going to have reduced consumer spending. As goods and services become more expensive, consumer purchasing power declines, and this leads to lower demand. This lower demand can actually negatively impact retail and service sectors, particularly for non-essential goods. And when you have that, you have a potential economic slowdown. When you have a decrease in consumer spending, right, this leads to reduced business revenues. It leads to lower production, and it slows economic growth. If businesses experience lower demand, they may actually reduce investment or cut jobs. So this can lead to job losses. Also, it can actually also add compliance costs for businesses because businesses must adjust pricing structures, accounting systems, tax reporting processes, and this increases their administrative burdens. Small businesses in particular may struggle with compliance. So that's the economic impact of raising VAT. The social impact is that it can have a regressive effect on low-income households. VAT is a regressive tax, meaning it takes a larger proportion of income from low-income individuals compared to higher-income individuals. If I take, whatever amount from 100 Rand, let's say 10% from 100 Rands, and 10% from R1,000,000, the guy with the R1,000,000 may not be happy. He just lost 100,000, but he still has 900,000. But if you had 100 Rands and you're left with 90, that's a significant decline for you simply because you didn't have as much to begin with. That's why it's a regressive tax, right? So it's not a great tax for the poor, for the marginalized. And we know we've got a 60% poverty rate in South Africa. Basic goods and necessities become less affordable, and this exacerbates poverty and inequality, right? The poor don't just buy VAT, zero rated goods. They buy other goods. They use other services. They'll be affected as well. We've already spoken about the impact on employment. If businesses experience lower sales, higher operational costs, they may have to reduce hiring or lay off workers. Sectors that are heavily reliant on consumer spending, retail, hospitality may face significant job losses. Then there's also, the fiscal impact. On the one side, you have increased government revenue, right? Which is why it's attractive to the minister. A higher VAT rate will generally increase tax revenue in the short term, helping governments to fund public services, infrastructure, social programs. This can be beneficial if the government channels additional revenue towards reducing deficits or improving social welfare. Now, the challenge and the credibility challenge for an ANC-led coalition, it's no longer ANC government, it's ANC-led coalition, is that they don't always have credibility for this. For the ANC government, any increased revenue collected does not particularly go where it's supposed to. And this is the issue for many people. The money very often ends up in the hands of slave queens with yellow thighs, somewhere there in Midrand or Pretoria. The money often ends up there. That's why Edwin Sodi and all of these people are well known in the slave queen community. The money ends up there. The Hoshkara Maimas of this world, the Unkari Uli Chinas of this world end up with that moolah. The moolah that was supposed to go to hospitals, to roads, to wherever it was supposed to go, ends up in the thighs of yellow bone slave queens, well known to politicians, in these nightclubs. That's where the money ends up buying these, what do they call that white bottle with the funny blue painting on it there that they drink in the clubs, not the Biliato or what. There's some nice thing there from Mexico, wherever. That's where the money often ends up, in Moloko, Zanzo, and all of these, facilities of ill repute, as we have come to find out more and more. That's the issue. Whenever you say, no, let's raise, people are like, no, but Chief, this money, you're always raising, but where does the money go? There's so much wasteful expenditure, irregular expenditure in municipalities. People see the blue lights of ministers. People see the size of the cabinet. They see the affluence of some of these children or relatives of politicians, which cannot be explained through mathematics or accounting. It can only be explained with a political something. And this is what causes the skepticism around this particular issue. Now, there's also, on the fiscal side, risk of reduced revenue from other taxes. If consumer spending declines significantly, VAT revenue gains may be offset by lower corporate income tax and personal income tax revenues due to reduced business activity and employment. There's also potential for increased tax avoidance and evasion. Higher VAT may incentivize businesses and individuals to underreport sales or to conduct more transactions in cash to evade taxes. This can reduce the effectiveness of tax revenue increases through the VAT, and then you don't generate the money that you wanted to generate. So the public, which doesn't want to pay this VAT, extra VAT, praised the Democratic Alliance for blocking a VAT increase. And because they saw the reaction to the DA, now there was almost an appetite from the ANC side to dilute the reaction, to also co-opt the reaction. We saw the minister in the presidency say that, and this happened in three ways, actually. We saw the ANC trying to co-opt the conversation and to remove the praise that was going towards the DA. Three things happened. Firstly, the minister said, this was a cabinet decision, not a DA decision. What are you guys talking about? There's no DA minister. There's no ANC minister. There's just cabinet. Cabinet decided against this thing. Cabinet chose to delay after cabinet told you to come here and hear the announcement of the speech. Anyway, that was the first thing. Then we saw some reporting. The reporting that we said that ANC ministers also objected to the VAT increase. That was the reporting that we saw. Then we saw some other reporting saying that, Minister Enoch Godongwana told the cabinet last minute. They didn't know that this thing was going to come like this. They didn't know that there was going to be a VAT increase. That's what we saw. Now, I want to tell you, I do not buy that narrative. I don't buy the narrative. I think that the DA are the reason why the VAT increase was scrapped and why the budget speech was cancelled. I think you have to give them credit. The DA are responsible for saving South Africans from having to go down this economic road. But for the DA yesterday, the VAT would have gone up. But for the DA, it wouldn't have gone up automatically. There would have had to be votes, etc., etc. And this is how the DA did. They said, we're not going to vote for this thing. You're not going to have the votes you need. And that's why the minister had to go back to the drawing board. So it wasn't necessarily going to be a thing of now. But if the DA had agreed, this would have actually been something that would have become tangible. So yeah, the DA, using that threat of not supporting the value-added tax increase, won the debate and they prevented it. Credit has to go to them. I think that's clear, right? So I also don't buy the narrative because there was reporting prior to the budget speech which seemed to suggest very clearly that the ANC was in support of this. What we saw earlier is that there was reporting showing that ANC ministers agreed with the VAT rise, that they were going to support it, and this was coming from ANC-friendly publications. So we don't have any reason to doubt those publications and what they said. Secondly, there's a general cabinet and what is known as the kitchen cabinet. The kitchen cabinet consists of the people who are closest to the president. That includes the minister in the presidency. That includes, Minister of Finance. And the president is somebody who is likely to have been very aware of what the finance minister was planning. The ministers in that kitchen cabinet are likely to be very aware of what the finance minister was planning. The budget speech is not a new thing. Many countries do budget speeches and you watch them. They are published there on Al Jazeera, Sky News, on YouTube. You can watch budget speech presentations, UK, whatever, you name it, you can watch it. And they often explain how these things work. And it's very clear that the president and the minister of finance have to be on the same page about where the budget is going. They work closely together. If the minister of finance disagrees with the president, that can actually collapse a president or a prime minister. Ask Boris Johnson. It can collapse you. That cabinet position is a very powerful position, and it's one that has direct access to the president. As a result, I do not believe that the ANC ministers were not aware. There may have been some opposition. I don't contest that some of them didn't want to necessarily go down this road. Maybe they even thought it was a bad idea. But I think that they were aware, and I think that the president actually did approve. I don't think that if the president did not approve, the plan was going to go ahead. It would have been killed before any announcement, before any... They never would have been if there was no consensus between those two people and significant number of people within the cabinet. In fact, in the kitchen cabinet, the body language, in fact, of the two ministers, to me, it showed me that they were there to do damage control. They seemed to be supporting each other, to be having a very good rapport, and they seemed both opposed to the SARS commissioner's ideas, and they were there to push back to some of his ideas, I think, from what I saw. So I don't buy the narrative that they then gave us, because it looks to me, you guys are saying, when is he going, Hambanini, what, all of that stuff, you know? It looks like you're on the same page, that, you know, between Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, between Enoch Godongwana and the president, that they agreed on this thing. In fact, that's probably why Khumbudzo was there with, the Minister of Finance. Almost like, we are the ones who pushed for this. We have to go face the music together. That's what it looked like. I don't know. I wasn't in the room, but just using my frontal lobe, this is what I see. It's not the medulla. It's the frontal lobe that does the thinking. Anyway, I just want to make this final comment. The ANC sometimes wants to be both Drake and Kendrick Lamar. They want to be T'Challa and Killmonger. They want to, in the narrative, they don't want to be the bad guy. I mean, who does? But you get what I'm trying to say. Sometimes you see, even in the ANC protest, the ANC will protest corruption or unemployment. They protest to the government. But from my perspective, I'm like, what are you doing? You are the government. Why are you protesting? Why not fix the thing? So the ANC minister is the one who wants to raise the VAT. Now you're telling us the ANC ministers are the ones who oppose the VAT. And then the ANC is the one who stopped the VAT from increasing, that the ANC... Can you see what I'm talking about? You want to be Drake and Kendrick Lamar. You want to be T'Challa and Killmonger. Huh? That's like me protesting to me about being thirsty. Me. Huh? Super, pepe, zaba yaba yaba yaba, pepa, zaba yaba yaba yaba, pepa, zaba yaba yaba, pepe. Jamie, give Jamie the water. Give Jamie the water. Jamie the water. But the water it's right here. If I want water, I can, anytime I want, I can. So how can I protest me to me when I'm me? Anyway, that's like what I see here. It's me protesting water to me. Me toing for me to switch off the lights. And then coming to tell you guys that I'm the one responsible for switching off the lights, so you must vote for me. Let's give the Democratic Alliance their props. They're the ones who stopped the VAT from increasing. Give them credit. That's where I'm going to leave this episode. Let's have a conversation till the next one.